So, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to, Wapiti Wednesday live Q&A for September 4th, but this is the Rut Report Week 2. So, did anybody else make it out last week? Sandy, I know your hunt didn't start. No? Okay. So, how did last week go? Our season opened on Friday, August 30th. And remember last week when I talked about the forecast, I said basically you're going to run into a mix of you're going to have some bulls with cows, you're going to have still some bulls bachelored up, and some bulls chasing cows. Probably not going to be a lot of vocalizations, but you could work areas and get responses with bulls coming in. So, what did we find? Other than it was bloody hot, incredibly smoky, and every time you walked around, it felt like basically you were standing right in the middle of a campfire right here in Idaho. It was a good weekend. So we'll let Greg connect to audio here and see if oh, Greg must be on the mountainside. Greg, are you on the mountainside? I didn't see where he was connected to audio. So, anyways, so yes, weather extremely hot. So basically, just like years past, where have talked about that hot weather, you want to focus on cool, dark draws, and so that's basically what we focused on was cooler, dark timbered areas. And Greg, welcome. We were just getting started. So
Yep. Fritz is joining us too. Don't forget about me.
Fritz always elevates the classification on these Wapiti Live Q&As. It's a shame that he's too cheap to actually join the program and only come in once a month or once a year when he's hunting with Greg.
When it's free. Yeah, what a cheap
Free.
bastard.
I know. Yeah. I bet when you go to the grocery store, you take advantage of every buy one, get one free, don't you?
Oh, he just sends me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Frugal.
So we were just kind of talking, recapping of last week when I talked about forecast for elk activity during the first part that, testosterone levels not going to be high, so you're probably not going to get a lot of bugling activity during the day. You could hear some bugles at night. You're going to have a mix of some bulls with a few cows. You're going to have bulls still in some bachelor groups, and you're going to have other bulls that are out rounding up cows. So what activity did we see? So Friday morning, which was opening day, when we were driving to where we were going to park, we actually ran into a guy walking down the road, chit-chatted with him. He was telling us about how he heard bulls bugle all night long Thursday night, off and on, by his camp. So we chit-chatted with him. Is like, well, where are you going? He held back a little bit of information and just gave me about the basics of where he was going. I gave the basics of where we were going. We went up and parked, put our packs on, started walking. Then we ran into him again, and he's like, "Wait a minute, what's your name?" And I introduced myself, and he goes, "God dang it, I knew that you looked familiar." It was actually the older brother of a player that I used to coach when I was coaching high school baseball here in the Valley. And so then he's like, "Okay, now that I know who you actually are, this is really what I'm doing and where I'm going." And I said, "Okay, Luke, now that I know who you are, this is really where I'm going and what we're doing." So no bugling activity at all on Friday. So basically, we kind of use that to kind of hike around the area a little bit and kind of form a mental map of the area. Because remember, this is a new area that we just found at the end of last season. We're still kind of connecting all the dots. We kind of went to, the goal was to kind of go to a specific wallow, and Bryce, I don't know what he did. I don't know if he got into some of my vitamins, because all of a sudden Bryce was one more ridge, which for you guys that are new, that's what everybody in the group calls me, because usually I'm like, hey, let's just go one more ridge, or let's just go over there, or let's just go over there. Well, that was Bryce. It was a great day. We connected a lot of dots, found 5 different wallows, a lot of elk sign, but not much activity on Friday. Saturday morning, we went to a different spot where we had one of the trail cameras. We set up and was doing a blind calling routine. Of course, we were focusing on Liz since this is her first archery hunt and first year archery hunting. So I'm out front with her to kind of coach her through, and she's like, I keep hearing something over there. And I'm like, well, then your ears are good because that's elk coming this way. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, it's about to get real because here they come. And then all of a sudden, they roll around the bush, and here comes a spike, here comes a spike, and then a third bull with them. And as soon as Liz saw all three, her reaction was, oh shit. And she just started the adrenaline shaking really bad. I may have started chuckling and giggling at that point because the oh shit was hilarious reaction. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that as soon as they saw an elk for the first time coming in that close. So, needless to say, they caught the collar moving and wheeled and went out. So no shot opportunity on that. But still, three bulls at 45 yards was was pretty good. I think that the shot of adrenaline in the arm kind of was like, okay, that was kind of fun and cool. Let's go do it again. Saturday we heard maybe three bugles in the morning. That was about it. Nothing Saturday evening. Sunday got some chuckles. So that was about it. We went up into another new area. We decided to roll around and get on his elevation. The only problem is we pushed the envelope a little bit too far. I was wanting to stop and set up, and Bryce was like, let's just go a little bit farther. We went a little bit farther and we bumped him, and Bryce's response was, oh, I guess we should have stayed back there. So, see, opening weekend mistakes, trying to push the envelope. But we did hear a couple of chuckles that day. Sunday night, what was really weird was we split up and covered different areas. I got up, I started doing a routine, and every time I would bugle, there was an elk that would bark at me, which I thought was really weird because they were far enough away that I don't know why the heck they were barking. And after the third time, I'm like, are you barking at me because you guys got together and did a script of, okay, we're not going to bugle, we're not going to make a lot of noise. So if anybody's bugling, we know it's a human and we can automatically just start barking at them because we know they're not an elk because they didn't read the script of how we're going to act this weekend. So Monday morning went kind of back into the area where that bull was barking, and I let off a cow call right at first light and immediately got a bugle back. Started working to him. He bugled probably 5 or 6 more times as he was kind of moving up. I knew where he was going because of the hiking that we did on Friday. And so Brandon was like, are we going to chase him? And I said, nope, we're going to get to this creek. We're going to hang a left. And there is a timbered meadow up here with a trail that's coming over. We'll be on the same elevation from him and we'll work him. And so Brandon and I got up in the meadow and we started doing the tandem breeding sequence that you guys have heard me talk about. And we lit the forest up with 4 different bulls screaming. And we basically about an hour and 20 minutes. So there was one bull that kept pacing above me back and forth, and I was working in on him. And as soon as I saw who it was Caribou. Do you guys remember me talking about that 5 point that his main beams curl forward where he formed kind of those C's up top where he was funky? Yeah, it was Caribou. And as soon as I saw him, and I'm like, okay, you're funky horned enough. I will take you home. Only problem is when I got to the last section to where when he came back on the shelf that he was pacing on, he would have been about 23 yards. Brandon decided to go out the bottom of the meadow calling, thinking that would pull him into the meadow, and Caribou continued out the ridge following Brandon on around the corner. So what did we find? So not much bugling activity, pretty quiet. There was a mixture. The one bull that was bugling Monday morning was a bull that had 3-4 cows. All the other bulls were kind of in bachelor groups. The other thing we noticed too was I just didn't see the activity on the trails that we had been seeing during the summer. Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, But Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, the trails all of a sudden were just hammered. So what that tells me is the larger bulls were down on the flats gathering the cows, and Sunday afternoon they moved back up into the area. Now all parties are back up in the area and those trails are hammered. So pretty close to what I expected. I wasn't expecting that much bugle activity on Monday morning. I'm going to take it because it was a heck of a lot of fun. So, all right, Mr. Greg, Mr. Fritz, what are you guys finding in your area?
Today was our first, we just got here this afternoon.
Well, how are you
And so,
supposed to give me information from the last 3, 4 days then?
well, we already went out. Well, the information for the last 3 or 4 days is this boy's retired.
Yeah, happy retirement. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So you guys just got up there and you did make it out today?
We went out. Really, we're our first few trips are going to go out to set our cameras up.
Okay.
Because they're Wi-Fi's and they'll feed back to us. So then we can start gathering more info. We have more guys showing up here in the next couple of days. So
Okay.
and they have cameras, so there's going to be a lot of exposure, I think, going on around up here. So,
Indecent?
no, proper. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
The cameras we've set up about a month ago up there, we looked at them tonight, and they're a couple small bulls and quite a few cows.
Good.
So
Okay.
they're in there.
Good. So
And the trails look well used, but
Okay.
old.
have you guys talked to anybody to see how the bugle activity or anything like that was or has been? So,
Yeah.
so it's been kind of hit and miss with the reports that I'm hearing from other people. For the most part, everybody's saying it's been pretty quiet, but there have been some areas where people are saying that the bulls were bugling pretty good. So, but what's the definition of pretty good? I mean, some people, if they hear 5 bugles in a day, they're like, "Holy crap, they were ripping." So, take it with a grain of salt. But for the most part, what I'm hearing was a pretty quiet weekend. Um, I do know we just had a front move through. I was looking at the barometric pressure today. It's been above 30 the last couple of days. It's still tracking above 30, and it's not going to be until about Friday, about 9 o'clock in the morning, is when it finally drops back down below 30. But the nice thing is, rolling into next week, temps drop almost 20 degrees. I mean, we're looking at lows of 41, highs, low 60s, but that barometric pressure in the 27, 28. So, kind of what I'm looking for through this weekend and first part of next week. Still kind of sporadic activity. You are going to get into a little bit more bugling activity in the morning, but because of the heat this weekend, you're still going to focus on those dark timber areas. The other thing that I noticed too is that some of the creeks in the past that have maintained water through September, because we were in the La Nina pattern, the wet pattern. Now that we're in El Nino, those creeks are dry. So water in some of those areas is going to be kind of a focus. So keep that in mind. If you get to areas that the last couple of years you had small little creeks that were still going, there's a good chance those could be dry. So keep that in mind of where your water sources are going to be. So yeah, going to be kind of sporadic bugling. It's going to be hit and miss in areas in the mornings and the evenings. The moon is starting to get bigger, so those nights are going to get brighter. So as the week progresses on, that moon's going to get bigger. Those elk are going to be going to bed earlier and coming out later, but your midday activity is going to be increased because, one, you have that increase of moonlight during the night, the cooler temps, and the barometric pressure dropping. So as next week increases and gets towards the tail end of the week, your bugling and activity is going to increase. So I'm kind of thinking by Thursday afternoon through the weekend, going to be some good bugle opportunities, especially that midday madness time. So if you know of some dark timber that have water sources and wallows, those are going to be the places that you're going to be want to hanging out during the middle of the day, especially if you know they're within a short distance of bedding areas. Hang out in those areas, make sure your thermals are good, and get ready for midday madness, because I'm really thinking next weekend there's going to be some nooner to 2 o'clock opportunities that are just going to be incredible, especially with the temps and in those dark timber and wallow areas. So
You're talking this coming weekend, or you,
right.
okay?
It's so this weekend you're still going to be kind of hit and miss sporadic through the first part of next week. And so then as next week kind of starts progressing, then you're going to see that activity really start picking up through the tail end of next weekend. And we will be back next Wednesday for another live. In fact, I think I have, let me see. I think we have, yeah, next weekend. Yeah. So next Wednesday, the 11th, and then the following Wednesday, the 18th. So we have those 2 sessions. Will not be one on the 25th, because I mean, I head up on the 20th and don't come back until the 29th or 30th. So we'll have 2 more sessions, but yeah, so the 5th through the 10th, that activity is going to slowly kind of start going, but you're going to see this weekend, the 5th and 6th, that barometric pressure kind of start dropping down a little bit. And then as the week progresses, into next week, that barometric pressure is just going to be coming down more and more and more. It's kind of like that barometric pressure is dropping in correlation with the temp dropping, and that's where you're going to start seeing a lot more activity. So, but the nice thing is too right now is with those bigger bulls moving back up into the area now that they've kind of gathered up their cows and moving back in, you're going to see an increase in the bull to cow ratio, which is going to increase the bugling activity and the rutting activity. Because the reason that's more so this year is because we are in that El Nino, and you don't have the food all over the place like we've had in the past. So that food is more congregated, higher bull to cow ratio in those areas, and that's why you're getting a lot more bugling activity at night now than maybe last year or year before. And then that just kind of keeps progressing as they're all heading to their bedding area and breaking up. They're still communicating, they're still bugling as they're going, okay, where are you? Where are you going? I don't want you coming into my area.
Well, we're here through the end of the season, so we're anxious to watch the changes come through.
Yeah, it's like I said, the weekend kind of went pretty much how I expected it. As far as, we had good reactions to the setups as far as the elk coming in. Some of the vocal responses, holy cow. Jake Hawley's popping in. Oh, but he's going to come right in mute. Oh, I was going to say, okay. All right. Well, appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. And yeah, we'll see you next. Just kidding, Jay. Just messing with you. So Jay, what did I see on the post online? How many tags punched?
I've got 2 out of 3 antelope tags so far.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Here in Idaho?
1 in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming.
Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. So,
yeah.
So we were just kind of talking about the elk activity that we saw. Was kind of a mix. Had some bulls that were still in bachelor groups, some that were solos, some still down rounding up cows. Not a ton of bugling activity. Monday was the best day for bugling. Other days were fairly quiet, but had good responses of setting up working areas, doing sequences, and having them come in. What
Nice.
Pretty much same thing you guys have been seeing?
Up in Island Park, they were not talking at all.
Greg, Fritz, you guys hear that?
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, we had this conversation last year that y'all were hunting the same areas. So I know you guys just got up there, and I was wondering if you had talked to anybody about how bugling activity, and now you just got the report. Jay, did you guys hear any at all, even at night?
No, nothing at night at all.
Wow. So, but as far as setting up and calling sequences, are they coming in silent and?
I didn't go out this weekend. I just went up. We just went up, set up elk camp, and I went and checked my cameras. I've got some bulls on camera, but not a lot.
Seem like maybe they're still down low rounding up cows and not up high yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's one thing that we saw too. Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, it just didn't seem like the numbers were in there, and then all of a sudden, like Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Monday morning, they were there because all of a sudden the trails went from okay to holy crap, these things are just beaten down.
Yeah. Seen a lot of fresh sign though, and a lot of fresh trees rubbed.
Good. So, well, it could be they were there rubbing velvet and then went down, picked up cows and
Yeah.
rolling back up. So yeah, it's just going to increase. Remember, like we talked before, where bulls were rubbing and getting hard horned about 6 days earlier than what they have the last 4 or 5 years. I'm really thinking that autumn equinox time frame is going to be peak rut this year. We're not going to have anything drifting into October. We'll have second ruts, drifting into October, but it's not going to be like years past, the last 4 or 5 years where peak rut has been second week of October. It's going to be a little more normal around that autumn equinox time. So, but yeah, that's getting ahead because we're just talking about week 2 right now. So
when is the autumn equinox this year?
22nd.
22nd.
Yep. So Sunday the 22nd, and no moon that week too. So
that will be good.
Yep, good combination. So all right. So with that being said, now that we've kind of talked about activity, what's going to be our calling approaches, between now and next Tuesday, the 10th? This point, in the mornings when you're locating, if you do get a response, go ahead and work in, hit the breeding sequence on him. So as long as he's staying vocal enough that you can get within, that striking distance that you need to, that 150, 125 yards, same elevation, then you're good to go. If you're not getting those responses, then, stay with what we talked about last week, work in those areas to where you're kind of doing that modified breeding sequence where you're focusing more on the cow sounds, and the bull vocalizations is just basically raking and some huffs and grunts. So, and that's about it. But the elk are going to kind of determine what playlist you're going to go. If you got bugles and you can move in, go ahead and go to the breeding sequence. If not, do the silent calling routine with that modified. So, okay. Questions, comments, concerns, answers?
Too early to tell yet.
I was going to say, you guys are such a stoic, silent bunch. It's awesome. So.
Well, when I turned my camera on, they started talking about indecent exposure, so I figured I better be quiet.
Yeah. What happens in the woods stays in the woods. So, oh my God. So you guys know, in fact, so let's do this. We'll wrap up with the serious stuff. I'll stop recording and then I'll tell you about some of the mountainside shenanigans that probably shouldn't be recorded and shared with the general public. But yeah, I was telling Jim too before you guys got on, really spent a lot of time on the Riven Black Ice and the Riven Stratum reeds this weekend. Was so impressed with those. As soon as I rolled off the mountain and took a shower, I went and picked up 2 more of each. So they are a conventional reed. They are a wide frame, but man, the sounds that you can do with them and the control on them are just incredible. So have my new favorite reeds. So, all right, with that, we are going to close out the 2024 Rut Report for week 2. As always, keep calling, keep practicing. More importantly, though, have fun. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7 o'clock for the Rut Report week 3. So
It's a plan.
have a good night, everybody.
All right.
too.
See you.